Hi, my name is James Townsend and I'm the creative director here at First Baptist Forney. I've grown up in this church my whole life and I've seen the church grow along with the city. In 1998, God gave a vision to our church to relocate from our downtown campus to where we are now. That move was called Vision 2000, and that would shape thousands of lives from that moment on. As a ninth grader at Forney High School, I never thought Vision 2000 would impact me the way it did, but it changed my life. At a summer camp in 1998, I felt the call of God on my life and surrendered to Him. Because people were willing to sacrifice for Vision 2000, I was able to step in and do ministry. Later on in my life, I felt a call into ministry, and never would I have dreamed of coming back here and working at my home church. But because those people invested and cared about the future, I was able to come alongside and help shape this church. Over 20 years have now passed, and I still stand amazed at what God has done. So we're going to take some time to look back at all that God has been doing over the last 20 years and dare to dream about what He's going to do in the next 20 years. This spring, we step into our new building, and I can only imagine what God is about to do. So let's look back and rejoice over how faithful God is.
Since 1998, we have been blessed to see First Baptist Forney grow at an amazing rate. In the 20 years that followed, churches across the United States were closing their doors at a rapid pace. God has been faithful. First Baptist Forney instead had a growth rate of 17% because of His faithfulness. We have seen Him add to our numbers, and we continue to see Him grow our church. We have gone from 2,694 members in 1998 to 6,694 members this year. And with the new building set to be finished in the spring of 2019, we can only dream of what God will do in the next 20 years. Forney is growing at a fast rate. What once was a few houses next to a vacant field with a middle school nearby are now streets upon streets of new houses. Just this year, the number of new homes has reached a total of over 15,000 within the city limits, and even more in the surrounding area. There are now schools surrounding us along with a city park. All of this in a short 20 years. God is leading both lost and saved people to our community. He is providing us with a challenge to trust Him and to reach them with the gospel. One thing that has not changed is our members at First Baptist Forney going out into the community. We have a group called GROW, which stands for God Rewards Our Work. This group meets every Tuesday night where teams are divided into small groups consisting of staff members and church members. They make contact with visitors of our church as well as connect with new members. During the past year, 307 families visited our church, averaging out to 6 new families per week. God is bringing them to us. It is up to us to be faithful and love these families while pointing them to Christ. One of the families who have seen God move through GROW in an incredible way is the Shavers.
I did not have any fear. My only concern was that I might be pushing them over the top a little bit by asking them to come visit our church when that wasn't their background and not how they were raised. So my fear was that we might just be a little too forward for them.
Keith and I knew that they had a Catholic background and we had a Baptist background, and that had been discussed before. And I think when we had the Super Sunday event come up, Keith just thought that would be a good time to invite them to church. I mean, all they could do is say no.
I reached out to Heath, I believe in a text or a phone call, and just said, hey, we're having this special event and we would love for you all to come and be a part of that. I knew Brother Jimmy would be preaching a good sermon, and it was really being built up as a really high point for the church. And I just wanted them to experience what we felt as a family, out of respect for who we were. He accepted because he wanted just to see what our church was like. But what they got out of that was life-changing for them. Sitting next to them and watching them look at each other and they had so much excitement. They didn't know how to contain themselves. And you could truly tell that they had been touched by the Holy Spirit. And they just didn't know what to do. And the excitement level was so high, the energy level was so high, even for Christy and Eve, that it was exciting to be around them. They wanted to be plugged in to the activities of the church, the extracurricular things that, it's not just coming to Sunday school and going to worship service, but they wanted to be involved in Wednesday nights. They wanted the kids in the youth department. They wanted to be able to be supportive of the children's program and the special needs programs. They wanted to be plugged in hard and fast, which is exciting.
And they saw the need for their entire family to be involved. It wasn't like, did the kids want to go to church? It was like, no, we're going. We're going as a family.
So had we not asked them, had we not made that first step and said, inviting them to church with us, it would have been a more casual relationship. There would have been respect on both sides of the families, but we're so integrated now that it's taken our relationship to an entirely different level with the Carrolls.
And Brother Jim is always talking about making disciples. Our church is not just about attending church. Our church is about helping people grow in their relationship with Christ and about bringing others to Christ and making a difference in their lives, not just attending church. That's not what it's all about.
And that's what we need to be doing, is reaching others, because our world is just so compartmentalized right now, and people just don't feel comfortable talking to other people or answering the door, or it's a weird world out there, and we need to love people.
Upward Sports has become one of our fastest growing ministries. We have seen God do some amazing things in and through this ministry. In 2015, we had 110 players participate in Upward football and cheerleading, and we have seen it grow to 197 overall. We also offer basketball and cheer in the winter, where we went from 392 kids in 2012 to 663 in 2018. During the basketball season, there are 35 games played in one day at 3 different gyms in Forney. Every week, it takes around 200 workers to make this ministry happen. The goal of Upward at our church is not just about sports, but presenting the gospel. Every week, we have around 500 parents at football and almost 2,000 at basketball games, and we take advantage of every chance we get to present the gospel. Every week at halftime, we share a devotion, and every practice, the coaches lead a devotion. We have seen God do some amazing things through Upward. Every year, we see people coming to know Christ, all because they attended an Upward event. Our goal is to take football or basketball and present the gospel, and then see lives changed. We are all about connecting the dots. Upward then feeds into grow into salvations, and salvations into disciples.
We're so blessed to see God change lives every week here at First Baptist Forney. We want to make sure that we never take for granted what God is doing here at our church. Keep in mind that most churches only see about 10 baptisms a year. We've been blessed this year to see 117 baptisms. That means 117 lives have been changed or impacted for Christ. These baptisms come from grow visits, summer camps, sports ministries, and many other things that our church participates in. Since 1998, we have baptized over 2,262 people in our church. That is amazing. That breaks down to 113 people per year that we are baptizing. We'd like to share with you one of the families that were impacted by our church this past year.
We had gone to the church to vote. That's the only time I'd ever been in the building. I'd never seen the inside of the sanctuary. So Keith sent me a text, and my first response was, I don't know, that's not our church. But we were curious about what Court was learning and experiencing with that church, new endeavor for him. Part of that decision was supporting Court. We always said, for our kids, we will raise them in the Catholic Church until they're old enough to make their own decision. Well, Court had reached that point in his life, and
Not for me.
but I reminded her this is what our plan was. Now we're entering that stage, so that's kind of how it kind of all came about, was letting Court make his own decision, but at the same time being there to support him. And so I replied back to Keith and said yes, said we would love to join y'all on Super Sunday and be their guest.
But we also said we're going to bring a rosary and ward off any Baptist voodoo or anything.
So made it light.
So we kind of planned the night before what everybody was going to wear because we were nervous. So in my mind, the Baptist was matching hats and little purses and, you know, for the ladies and just old school kind of traditional that way. And so we got up and went, and we were nervous walking in. I remember we hold hands a lot, but we both had like sweaty palms, and it was ridiculous. So when we were walking in, we just went to big church that day, and it was just an overwhelming feeling of emotion that I didn't even recognize it until we got home. But we didn't sing. I was looking at everybody that was singing like, wow, everybody's singing. And I really did think it was pretty cool because it's not what I was expecting. I was expecting old hymns and having to thumb through the pages and everything. And it's like walking into a friend's house. That's the best way I can describe it. The back door friend, where you just walk into the house. That's how I felt. And it was odd because I expected to be treated like a stranger, and we were treated like the friend that just comes in the back door, and it was amazing. When we got home, Heath and I sat down in our coffee chairs, and we were just sitting there, and neither one of us would look at each other. And the whole time I'm wondering, like, oh my goodness, I felt something like just a tightening in my chest, and like I wanted to cry at any moment, and I was just kind of jittery, and I looked at Heath and he looked at me, and I was like, well, what do you think? And he was like, I'm afraid to tell you. And I was like, well, I'm afraid to tell you. So, and it was like we were on a date. It was the weirdest thing. And he was like, well, I felt it. And I was like, I felt it. And then we were just...
I was the guy that, if you can show it to me, if you can have Jesus sit in the room with me and talk to me, I might get there.
Or show me proof.
Show me
very
proof.
Black and white. Show me proof.
So when we went that day, I felt something. I didn't know what it was. Our first day, Super Sunday, I didn't know what it was, but I liked it. So that day, through that sermon, and it was Brother Jim that gave the message that day, it was a one-on-one conversation. He was talking to me. Everything he said in his message that day was directed at me, and it hit. So it was an unbelievable feeling.
It was.
So from the minute the service was over to the minute we sat down and talked here at home, I was fearful of Miss Catholic. She'll never want to go back, but she's going to want to stay with her tradition and be in the Catholic Church. So I was like, how do I tell her this is what I want? And so when we had that conversation here in our coffee room, we both realized we were thinking the same thing. So we were debating this. It's like the song lasted for a long time because we were having that conversation. It's time. And she's like, no, not today. We'll just go. And I said, he just told us to say yes. It's time. So we did. We walked forward that day and we told Kirk, it's time. We want to join this church and we want to learn more about God.
When all 6 of us got baptized together, that was to this date, that even tops having our children to me, because it was something all 6 of us were a part of. And at that moment, after we were baptized, we knew, I knew that we would all be together in heaven. And that is a glory that just can't be met.
Not knowing that building for the first 15 years of being in Forney, not knowing what goes on inside that building. We knew it was church. We knew a little bit about VBS, but there's so much more. We joked with Keith and Cynthia when we first got invited and we first went the first time about they're just trying to get their punch card. Hey, we brought a guest.
This is a big one. We got a whole 5 punches for this
So
family.
we joked, and that was part of making it light. But
the lightheartedness and the warmth of just that conversation, it extended to everybody in that church. It's all walks of life, all shapes, all sizes.
But it was that invitation, it was that punch card, as we joke, that changed our lives.
It was that just say yes. Just one time. What do you have to lose?
And
Can change your life.
the reason I'm interested in Grow and the disciple piece of it is, if we can convince one family, one person, to say yes to come to a visitation and it do what it did for us, it's an amazing feeling to be able to share what we have learned to love with someone else.
Over the past 20 years, we have seen God's hand over our church, but more so in our next generation ministry, our children and youth. God has been doing some amazing things. We have seen our numbers grow by 25% from 168 in 2003 to 210 on average every Sunday. With the growth of our church, First Baptist Forney offers a special needs ministry through Sunday morning Bible study, Parents' Night Out, and Wednesday night Cubbies and Level Up. The average attendance of our preschoolers has risen from 84 to 118 today. That's 40% increase in the number of ears and souls that hear the gospel of Jesus Christ each and every week. In 2003, the students' ministry was averaging 103 each Sunday, but continued to grow by almost 115% to a whopping total of 221 by this past Super Sunday in February. The next generation is unmistakably emerging as a generation to follow Jesus and carry His word to all parts of the world. But the astonishing fact is that 38 students since 1998 have become active in ministries and are reaching the world for Jesus Christ. Here is one story on how God is moving in one of our schools.
This past spring, I was approached by our area FCA director, and he told me that there was an opportunity to mentor, character coach was the word he used, to speak to the North Forney's varsity baseball. So it definitely felt unique to be asked to go kind of into a foreign land. It is just high school, but high school today doesn't really reflect, a biblical landscape for sure. So you definitely felt strange being there, but kids were more open and receptive than I thought they would be. They were just glad someone was there to talk with them, to care about them. They knew that I was there for them. I wasn't there for any other reason. I was simply there for each one of them. Every Thursday morning I would meet and I would bring a devotion, a biblical devotion, kind of with a biblical meaning application for each one of the guys, probably tied into baseball somehow. And went to some of their games, even got to sit in the dugout sometimes. But the more I got to talk with Zach Gear, the baseball coach, he kind of shared with me his idea of actually having a mentor, an adult mentor for each one of his guys. Just someone to pour into another positive influence for each one of his players. Zach cares a lot more about his players than just baseball. He cares about them off the field too. So from that, Coach Gear gave me the opportunity to provide a dinner for the team. We made a really nice dinner. The mentors all showed up. It was really cool to see them here helping along with the baseball guys. After dinner, I gave a short gospel presentation, and every one of those guys stood up and made some sort of decision in the direction of Christ. They knew what I was about, and they knew what was important to me. And from that, a senior, his name was Kyle, was baptized. So he made a decision for Christ. He knew that it was something he needed to do, and he eventually was baptized. I'm very thankful for the opportunity to get to minister to our students outside of our church walls. There's a lot that happens within these walls, but there's so much more to be done outside. And my encouragement to our leaders, to our adults, would be to look for the opportunities to minister to those around you. It could be a student, could be a family, it could be a child, but that conversation that you have, that relationship that you strike up, could have a tremendous impact on someone's life.
Our women's ministry has impacted numerous women through our community through Bible study, special events, worship, fellowship, and outreach. On a weekly basis, our Bible studies have an average of 60 women in attendance of all ages. The women's ministry also hosts Closer, which is a Sunday night fellowship, where approximately 40 women attend weekly. Our women's ministry also offers Heart to Home every year. This past fall, we hosted a night of worship. Over 150 women met to worship and praise God. For the past 12 years, First Baptist Women's Ministry has been hosting their annual Christmas coffee. Each year, our attendance continues to grow, with well over 200 women in attendance.
Hello, my name is Joe Daniel. I'm the worship pastor at First Baptist Church Forney.
I'm Mark Warren. I'm the Associate Pastor of Worship here at First Baptist Forney.
It's been a great year of worship at our church.
And that started off with our Christmas things last year in 2017. It's always a fun time to see the sanctuary decorated for Christmas, and we had amazing experiences, including and most importantly, like the choir program that we had.
And of course, our Christmas Eve service. We've had 2 services now for a few years. It's a great opportunity to get together.
And leading up through that into the new year, we always gear up for Easter, which is our next big holiday. And we had such good involvement with our teams here to get ready for that. And we also were excited to kind of form and through the leadership of James Townsend, an Echo team, a media team that helped so much with our Easter and encounter services with video content. And it just really is updating and changing what we can do with our services and that we're going to experience as a part of our new building this next year.
Easter was followed up by our spring concert by our children's choir under the direction of Carrie Ferris. More than 100 kids and adults involved in that. It's an amazing spectacle to be a part of and see.
And then going through summer, we ramped up our student worship, and we're joined by our worship intern, Kara Watts, and the leadership that she's shown in getting these students to keep staying involved and sharing their time and their gifts has been awesome to see. It's been over the years a different mix of students and adults, but this last year it's just all students with her leadership, and it's been amazing to see. And it's been good to see our production team in the sanctuary and in our services on Sundays grow, and as it's led by Donnie Dorsey. Just leading into our new building, it's just going to be even more important thing for us, and we're going to be learning so many new things, and so it's been good to see that group grow and learn and work together so well, and we're excited to see this new building and sanctuary. So we're excited about the things to come with them as we go into our new building. There's going to be so much emphasis on our video and the things that are going on around the building that they've been working on this last year.
So pray about it, think about it. Is there something you'd like to participate in worship ministry here at First Baptist Church? Whether it's technical, singing, playing an instrument, we'd love to have you be a part of that.